Hello everyone, welcome back to Foundations of Shorthand, and we are now in our week 15. So before we move on, please have your modules and your steno pads and ball pens as well, so that you will have a guide in our discussion in this video, and of course your steno pad, because as you know, every time na nagsasubmit kayo ng inyong mga requirements, dapat kasama sa sinasubmit ninyo yung inyong steno pad. And at the end of I know that there are some who are not submitting or who are not submitting their steno pads when submitting your modules or your requirements I know that, and I sometimes forget to check those, but at the end of this subject, okay, on your final exams, you are required to bring with you your notebook, your steno pad. And as you know, those who have been submitting their steno pads and letting me check those steno pads, I put signature there. Meron siyang signature, and sometimes I also put the date. But what important here is that nandun yung signature. And then makikita ko doon kung sino yung nagsasubmit ng module ay ng steno pad. Okay, so at the end of or before you're going to take your exams, of course you have to submit your steno pad, and that would be that will have a bearing on your grade. So parang class participation ninyo yung inyong steno pads, okay? If you're listening, it's a part of class participation yung steno pad na kompleto. And then of course, for those who have my signature on their steno pads, mas mataas ang grade. Don't expect na kung wala akong signature dyan sa mga steno pads ninyo is the same yung grade ninyo or yung magiging grado na ibibigay ko for that steno pad dun sa mga merong signatures. Okay? So, ayan, gusto ko lang i-explain kasi I know na sometimes kapag hindi ninyo pinapaalala, nakakalimutan ko due to, I know it's not an excuse, but it's the truth. Dami-dami kong ginagawa, dami-dami namin ginagawa, and of course, may nakakaligtaan kami. Sa iba naman, na naaalala ko naman, but most of the time, I think I forget to ask for your steno pads. So, please, sinasabi ko na dito na if you come to school and submit your activity requirements for shorthand writing, please bring with you your steno pads, okay? Na merong sulat, of course. Ayan, so medyo napahaba na yung ating introduction. So for this topic, for this week, we're going to discuss, or we're going to learn a new set of brief forms, and then we also have the special phrases, and then words ending your and wal, and then transcription tips, and then I'm gonna read to you yung mga transcription tips natin na konti lang naman, and then explain a little bit, okay? So ayan, so for our first set, we're going to have what we call another set of brief forms. We're going to have another set of brief forms. So, inuulit, what is brief form? Of course, brief forms are words that are usually or often used in English dialect, that since it was often used, Greg decided to create a brief form stroke for these words. Okay, so for company, as you can see in your module, we have comp. So we have, you remember the con-com, right? Con-com, the con-com beginning of words are stroke or represented by your K stroke. So this is com, right? So com is represented by your K, and then we have P. So that is how you stroke your company. It's KP. Pangit. Wait. It should be K and then P. Okay. Next, we have work. So, work is represented by your R and K. Parang work. Ganun lang siya. Okay, we have R and K. Work. That's how you represent your work in shorthand writing. It's just R and K. Next, we have ever and every. So, ever is represented by your E and then your V. Ever and every has the same stroke. Ulitin natin. We have your E, then we have your V. Next, we have state. State is represented by your S and your T. Ulitin natin. State is represented by your S and your T. State. Next, we have communicate. So, communicate is represented by your com and Kate. So, we have com, which is yung ating K, and then we have Kate, we have K-A-T. Communicate. That's how you do communicate in shorthand writing. Next, we have soon. Soon is represented by our S and N. Soon. Ulitin natin. We have S and N. Soon. Next, recommend is represented by your R, E, K. Rec for recommend. Next, direct is represented by your D, R, K. Direct. Okay. Now, if you were not able to, or if you were not able to get any of those strokes correctly, please feel free to go back. Ayan, I'm trying to do it as slowly as I can so that you can follow through it. Okay? Pero kapag hindi pa rin talaga ninyo nakuha, pwede pa rin naman ninyong i-repeat, right? Yung part ng video kung saan hindi ninyo nakuha, and then try doing it again. Now, of course, after our brief forms, we also have our brief form derivatives. So, nasanay naman na siguro kayo by this time. Tama na every after a brief form is a brief form derivatives. And then, our brief form derivatives. And then, usually, after every brief form derivatives are our brief form phrases. Okay? So, ayan, companies. Since company, na-stroke na natin sa taas, and then yung companies naman, nag-add lang siya ng S, then mag-add lang din tayo ng S dun sa brief form ni company. So, we have nasan ka na, Maruha? Companies. Bumpanis. Ayan. Okay, ulitin natin. We have K, and then we have P, and then we have S. Companies. Next, a company. So, and then the company. We have and then company. Okay? Next, we have a worker. So, yung ating worker is represented by our, our work. Okay, our work is represented by R and K. Now, when you add dun sa worker, it's going to be just R. So, ano yung magiging stroke natin? It's going to be R, K, R. Kasi alon-alon lang, right? So, that's going to be your worker. R, K, R. Worker. Next, we have everywhere. Okay, so, in our last video, kung titingnan niyo, if you have your last module, the week 14 module, or week 14 ba or 13? I'm not sure. I think it's 13. May brief form tayo doon ng where. And we said there that where is represented by our A. Brief form ng where is A and R. Tama? Now, dun sa ating everywhere, as we all know, there's always an exemption to the rules. So, yung everywhere natin is E and V, right? Now, if you're going to add A and R for where, diba? Syempre, yung direction kasi ng ating V is from right to left. So, mangyayari dyan, idiretso mo na lang yung A doon, and then yung R. So, yan yung stroke ng ating everywhere. Okay? Ulitin natin. We have ev for every, and then we have AR for where. Ano ba yan? Ulitin natin. E, V, A, R. Okay, so that is how you stroke everywhere. Everywhere. Next, whenever. I think that's whenever. That's whenever. I'm sorry. Pati sa module wrong. So, if it's whenever, when is represented by your en. Okay? So, when is represented by en. And then, so we have when. And then we have ever. E-V. Okay? Ulitin natin. We have when, en. And then E-V. So, as you can see, ibang-iba na naman siya dun sa, dun sa everywhere, and then dun sa whenever. Yun nga, sinasabi ko, there's always an exemption to the rule, and aside from that, these are brief forms. So, when you say brief forms, these are special cases or special strokes for the words. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Yan, special phrases sila. So, of course, when you say special phrases, they might break some rules and special nga, diba? Ayan, they can be an exemption to the rule most of the time. Okay? So, next, we have stated. Stated. So, we have state, which is ST, and then remember the jog so that they will know that there's a TED after T. So, that is how you do stated. Yung TED natin doon, stated. Yeah. Yung TED natin doon. TED. Yung TED sa last. Okay? Next, communication. So, you will already have communicate. Now, let's add Sean. Sean. Ma'am, bakit hindi siya pumunta sa T? Okay. Ma'am, bakit wala siyang T? Diba communication? Sean. Yung Sean natin na word it includes T doon sa Sean na word. It won't be pronounced as Sean kung wala siyang T. So, hindi na natin kailangan yung T sa taas kasi nga, diba, yung Sean natin, meron na siyang T doon. So, all you need to do is a slanting downward. Yeah, downward slanting line. Okay? So, ayan. Next, communications. So, kopyahin lang natin yung communication. Ano ba yan? Sean, and then just add S. Ulitin natin. We have and then Sean, and then just add S. Okay? Next, we have communicated. Communicated. So, ano naman yung difference ngayon? We have and then K, and then TED. Okay? Communicated. Next, we have sooner. So, we already have the soon, which is SN. Now, let's just add R. Sooner. Ulitin natin. Sooner. Okay? Next, recommends. So, recommend is represented by your REK. Now, let's just add S. So, to make it recommend. So, we have REKS. Okay, ulitin natin. REKS. Next, recommended. We have dead. Ulitin natin. We have dead. Okay. Next, we have recommendation. So, the same is true with yung ating communication, na communication pababa lang. Ganun din yung ating recommendation. So, we have recommend, for recommend, and then Sean. Recommendation na yan. Diba? Ang galing. Next, recommendations. We have recommendations, and S. Ulitin natin. Recommendations. Okay? Next, directed. So, we have directed. We have DRKTD. Make sure that your TED there is longer than your D. Okay, ulitin natin. We have D, R, I'm sorry, that's D. We have D, R, K, T, D. Yan. Next, director. So, we have direct for D, R, K. Now, let's add R to make it director. Okay, nakuha ninyo? Ulit, we have D, R, K, R. Director. Next, directly. Direct, and then Lee. Lee is represented by your small circle. Ulitin natin. Direct, D, R, K, and then Lee. Directly. Next, direction. D, R, K, Sean. Ulit, direction. Direct, Sean. Okay? So, ayan. Those are our brief form phrases. So, I hope I was able to help you write it properly. So, kung may mga hindi kayo ulit naintindihan dyan, go back and try to do it again. Next, we have the special phrases. So, for our special phrases, ano naman ngayon tong special phrases na ito? Oh, wait. Yan. As soon. Okay. To us. Wait, may mali dito. It's to us. To us. And of course. To us. And of course. Okay. So, ayan. So, special ulit. Special phrases. Then, when you say special phrases, that means it's a special, meaning it's exemption. It's an exemption to the rule. So, for to us, di ba yung us natin, yung to is like this. And then yung us natin is like that. Lapayag ni us. To and us. Ngayon, since it has the same na downward hook, pinag-isa na lang sila. To us. Ganyan na lang. Okay, ulitin natin. We have to us. Yan. Next, of course. Of course is represented by your F and your K. I'm sorry, F. O and K. Okay? Next, we have as soon as. As soon as is represented by A, S, and S. As soon as. So, yung as dyan is the big circle, and then soon, and then the next as. Okay? Next, as soon as possible. So, yung as soon as natin is, yan, kopyahin na lang natin. And possible is just represented by your P stroke. So, we have as soon as possible. Ulitin natin. As soon as possible. Ulitin pa natin. Isang beses pa. As soon as possible. O, diba? Ang dali. Next, let us and let me. So, yung let us natin is just represented by your L-E-S. L-E-S lang po yung let us. Hindi ko alam kung bakit, pero yan. Special nga, diba? Okay, so when you say this, when you see this, it's let us. Kasi usually, pag list yan, ganon. Tama? Pero pagka bumaliktad na si S, that means that's let us. Let us go. Let us move. Let us deal with everything. Next, let me. Let me, English kasi sila. Kaya ang nangyari kay let me, naging let me. Let me handle this. Let me. Lemmy po, hindi Lenny ha. So, ayan. Those are our stroke for yung mga special phrases natin. Now, a phrase beginning with to followed by the sound of M is written with the tem-dem blend. A phrase beginning with to followed by the sound of D as in do is written with the TED blend. Okay, so ano yung sinasabi dyan? Basta yung sumusunod is or yung sumusunod na word dun sa to, nagsisimula sa M, ang mangyayari, magiging tem-dem blend yan. Pero kapag ka naman yung to, sinundan ng do, or ng D na word, or ng D sound after nung to, magiging TD blend. So, para maintindihan natin, kunin natin yung ating mga words. For example, yung ating to me. Okay, yan. So, there. Yung ating to me. So, tem-dem. Ano yung tem-dem? Ano yung tem-dem blend natin? It's the T and M, right? So, magiging ganyan. And then, yung TD blend naman natin, or TED natin is T plus D. So, magiging stroke niya is ganon. Okay? Bakit anyari? Ayan. So, for to me, so yung T followed by an M is, or yung to followed by an M, gagamitin mo daw yung tem-dem blend. So, we have tom, me. Next, to make. Ganon din. To make. So, this is to and M already. Pati din doon. Yung to me natin, to me. So, it's T and M. Ganon din dito. To make. So, we have T, we have M. Next, to do. So, habaan na lang natin yung to do. That's T for to and D and O. To do. Okay? So, ayan. Next, we have the your and the wal sound. Sabi din sa inyong module, the words ending your as in procedure is written with an R. The word ending wal as in annual is written with L. So, yung your and wal, ayan na naman. Meron na naman tayong shortcut, issue-shortcut. So, nakakalito na to. But then, ayan, sabi ko nga, common sense. Bumili, saan ba pwede makabili ng common sense? Okay, so, ayan, wala tayong magagawa. What we can only do is to, try our best to learn. So, yung your natin is represented by the R sound. Okay? So, ayan. For procedure. So, ano yung sounds natin doon? P, R, O, S, E, D, and your. Okay? So, yun yung isusulat natin. We have P, R, O, S, E, D, your. Procedure. Ulitin natin. We have P, R, O, S, E, D, your. Procedure. Okay? Next, failure. So, fail. We have F, A, L, your. F, A, L, your. So, yun yung isusulat natin. We have F, A, L, your. Ulitin natin. We have F, A, L, your. Next, picture. Picture. So, P, K, kasi diba hindi naman kailangan yung E doon. Picture. It's P and K. That will be enough. So, we have P, K, T, your. Ulitin natin. P, K, T, your. Nature. Next, we have N, A, T, R. Nature. Ulitin natin. We have N, A, T, R. Your. Nature. Next, we have natural. So, meron na tayong nature. L na lang ang kulang. N, A, T, R, L. Natural. Yan yung natural. Natural. Parang natural. Diba? Ganun naman, natural. So, natural. Yan. Next, feature. We have T, R. For your. Feature. Ulitin natin. We have and then T, and then your. Feature. Okay, so now let's move on to our vowel sounds. Vowel naman ngayon. Vowel sounds. So for your vowel sounds, it is represented by your L stroke. So ayan. Ngayon, for annual, we have A, N for an, and then nual. Ulitin natin. An, nual. Next, annually. An, nual, li. Ulitin natin. An, nual, li. Next, actual. Actual. Ulitin natin yung actual. Actual. Next, actually. Actual, and then just add li. Ulitin natin. Actually. Next, factual. So, fact, F-A-K-T, and then wal. Ulitin natin. Factual. Factual. Next, equal. Ik, and then wal. Okay, ulitin natin yung ating equal. We have ik and wal. Okay, and then gradual. Gradual, grad. So we have G, then R, and then A, and then D, and then L. Habaan na lang ninyo yung L ninyo. Next, gradually, we have G, we have R, and then A, and then D, and then L, and then E. Gradually. Okay? Next, contractual. We have con, and then we have tract. May A ba dun sa contract? Okay, wala. So, contract, and then twal. T-L. Okay, so aside from this, we also have what we call another exemption to the rule. Ano yung exemption to the rule natin? Sabi dyan, if the your or the wal is after a downward stroke, the uu is to be written. Kung pababa yung stroke after nung ating your and wal, you have to write the u sound, or your downward hook for the uu sound. So, for example, pleasure. So, yung ating pleasure, we have P-L, P-L-E, and then we have sure. Sh. Hindi kasi siya pleasure. It's not S, it's sh. So, sure, we have SH. And then UR. Kasi downward, tawag dito, downward stroke yung sinundan ng UR sound. As you can see here, forward stroke. Usually, forward stroke yung mga strokes natin dito before the UR. It's either forward or upward. Ngayon, kapag ka downward yung stroke mo before the UR and the vowel sound, then you have to write yung UU, which is represented by your downward hook. Okay? Next, we have pressure. Ulitin muna natin yung pleasure. So, pleasure, we have ple, and then sure. Okay. Next, we have pressure. So, the same. Shorten lang yung R. Ay, yung, yeah. Ulitin natin. P, R, E, sure. Yan. Next, visual. So, we have V, E, SHU, U, L. Ulitin natin. Visual. We have V, E, SH, U, WAL. Okay. So, I think that's it for this video. Oh, no. Meron pa tayong sinatawag na transcription tips at the last of your modules. Please, pumunta kayo doon. Sabi dyan, first, in order to make your shorthand skill as useful as possible, you should practice reading your own shorthand notes until you can read them fluently. Naintindihan? Hindi lang dapat na, kumbaga, di ba, most of the time, nagpapatranscribe ako from longhand to shorthand. Now, another technique for you to be able to maging fluent or maging mahasa yung inyong skill, and of course, para maging useful siya, you have to also practice reading your own steno notes. Para nang sa ganun, di ba? Isipin kasi ninyo, okay, nakapag-take down notes ka nga, sabihin natin, ang bilis mo mag-take down notes, pero hindi mo naman pala maiintindihan kung ano yung mga sinulat mo doon. Okay? So, that's one technique or one tip na binibigay sa atin ng libro. You have to also try and read those things that you are writing down in shorthand. Next, if any outlines are difficult to read or if they are missing from the notes entirely, the context of the sentence should serve as a clue in helping you fill in the missing words. Okay, so there are instances wherein the speaker may be very, very fast in the reading. So, ano yung gagawin ninyo? And pag nag-transcribe kayo from shorthand to longhand, hindi mo na, may mga nawawala na words. Of course, you fill it in. Hindi pwedeng hindi mo ilagay hindi pwedeng hindi mo kumpletuhin yung thought ng message. So, what you need to do is to use, sabi dyan, the context of the sentence. So, ayan, doon na naman pumapasok yung tinatawag natin na common sense. Ano ba sa tingin mo yung pinagsasalita or pinagsasabi ng speaker? Ano ba yung pinag-uusapan doon? And what do you think could be an appropriate word to fit in doon sa context ng sentence na trinatranscribe mo? Okay? And then lastly, the third pala, if one outline in your notes does not make sense, you may have made an error in writing proportion. Failure to curve the ITH will make it appear as a T, turning father into fat, for example. Okay, so this is why sinabi ko noon that you have to be very careful when it comes to writing your strokes. Kasi nga, di ba, curve lines, planting line lang naman yung mga strokes natin. So, kung hindi mo na curve masyado yung iyong R, pwedeng maging basa nun is letter N. Kung hindi mo na curve masyado yung over TH mo, pwedeng ang basa nun is T. Kapag ka naman na-curve mo yung T dapat or yung D dapat, magiging tem-dem blend na yon. Okay? So, yun, yung isang technique is to make sure that you practice writing your strokes properly. And of course, that when you are transcribing your shorthand to longhand, yun nga yung sinabi ko, basahin naman ninyo. Just like the example that it made, di ba yung father kasi natin is F-A-T-H, and then your fat is F-A-T. Ngayon, since dun sa fat, it does not fit into dun sa sentence, it does not make sense, then try transcribing or try using another word na malapit doon sa FAT na yon, which is, of course, yung ating father. Okay? Next, last, one of the best ways to learn the meanings of shorthand symbols is through reading. Practice reading. It will make you a faster shorthand writer in the next few weeks and a better transcriber later. Okay, so yun lang naman sabi dyan, reading. Pero of course, aside from reading, you also have to couple it with writing. Kasi nga, it's a writing skills. It's a shorthand writing skill. So when it comes to writing skills, hindi mo naman pwedeng binabasa lang, 'di ba? So para ma-improve naman yung skill mo in writing, you also have to write as frequent as possible using shorthand writing. And of course, aside from that, hindi naman nagtatapos doon yung trabaho ng stenographers, right? After writing down your notes, you have to transcribe it in layman's term, wherein you also have, or you should also be able to read kung ano man yung mga nasa notes mo. Therefore, after writing, you have to analyze, you have to understand, and read your own strokes. Okay? So, that's it, everyone. Tignan natin yung inyong, ayan, meron na naman kayong dictation. So, same old. Same din yung procedure ninyo with the previous procedures of how you do your tawag dito, dictations. Ganun din. Okay, so that's it. I hope I was able to help you understand those strokes in our lesson. Anong week na to? Week 15. 2 week na lang and it's going to be finals. Good luck, everyone. See you in our next video. Good day and God bless.